Hey Project Crosszone fans, this is Anthony. I'm here with a representative from Namco Bethlehem. May I ask what your name is?
My name's Dennis.
What do you do?
I am the brand manager on the North American side for Project Crosszone 2.
Awesome. Now, I'm from the Project Crosszone localization Facebook page. A lot of fans have been asking questions about certain things about Project Crosszone 2. Hopefully I get to ask questions to my ability.
All right.
Now, how is the localization for Project Crosszone 2 different from the first Project Crosszone game, since the first one was announced internationally?
Yeah, so the localization actually was very similar between Project Crosszone 1 and Project Crosszone 2. The process was pretty much the same as it was last time. A lot of what our localization team had to do was really making sure that all of the lines that were included for all the different characters from all the different brands, that they stayed true to those characters in their respective games. So that's really kind of the core piece of that localization and kind of why it is difficult, but it is a lot of fun for our localization team.
Nice.
But a lot of it, again, it's very similar. You know, we get the script and then you kind of go through and there's a lot of back and forth between us and, you know, and the team in Japan and Sega and Capcom, and making sure that, you know, as much as we can, we keep all the characters and basically all their text, their sayings, their statements, all true to the characters.
All right. How big is Project Crosszone 2 compared to the first one?
So big is an interesting way to describe that. So there's a couple ways we can look at it. So one is from a gameplay standpoint, the Project Crosszone 2 is larger than the first game, but one of the things that the development team really did was they fine-tuned the game a lot more. So there were stages and some levels where literally, like, you would just kind of take hours on the stage. And so the development team went in and kind of fine-tuned the gameplay, shortened it up, so that way you get a better gameplay experience.
Right.
And so you're able to go through some of those stages quicker, but that doesn't mean that the game is shorter.
Gotcha. Would there be a franchise represented by the stages like Game Ground, like in the first one?
So as far as the stages that are included, the development team really wants to keep what is in the game left that we haven't talked about kind of a secret, because it's kind of a surprise for, you know, the fans and the players as they play through. So, you know, as we're going through, we're announcing, you know, new characters, new playable characters, and most recently I think we announced some of the, like, kind of the antagonists and some of the other enemy characters.
Yep.
But a lot of the information that we haven't talked about yet, they do want to keep that stuff a surprise, so that when people do play the game, that they're surprised with all the cool, you know, again, nods and different things that are from all the different brands that are included. They want to kind of keep that a secret so that when players play it, they're like, oh my god, that's in it, that's super cool. So, yeah.
All right. Japan will have the collector's edition for Project Crosszone 2. Will the collector's edition come into the US as well, or not yet to be announced?
So, unfortunately, the collector's edition, especially the really cool Japan collector's edition that they have, is going to be a Japan exclusive. So in the West, we aren't going to get that. You know, we're not going to get that collector's edition.
Okay. So so that Shamu game.
And the game, we're not going to get it, even though it's super cool. But yeah, we weren't just able to do it on our side.
All right. Will we be able to get those awesome posters that was exclusive, that's in Japan, coming to the US as well, or is that the same thing like the collector's edition?
So those posters and that artwork, I mean, the artwork is really cool. It was made exclusive for Project Crosszone 2. We are looking at how we might be able to utilize that artwork for the Western fans. So we haven't really come to a final decision of what we're going to use, how we're going to use them, but we're definitely looking into them to see if there's a way that we can utilize that stuff for the Western fans.
Now, all right, this next question is a step backward to the first Project Crosszone, the OG, which is Namco plus Capcom.
Yes.
Considering the success of Project Crosszone 2's justification of localization of the sequel, will we be able to see Namco plus Capcom ever make its way outside of Japan, like in the form of an HD or someday?
I can say that there's no plans at the moment to bring that title over to the West, but I can say that you never say never, because there's other titles that we've worked on where we didn't think they would ever come out like in the West because it'd been so long since they'd come out in Japan or on other versions. And if it's like, oh, it's an anniversary, so like for Tales of Symphonia, it was the 10th anniversary for that game, and so we brought that over to PS3, which, fans before that were asking, are you going to bring out a new version? Are you going to bring out a new version? We didn't even get the last PlayStation version, so we had to kind of say like, well, there's no plans, but that one did happen. But there are lots of other games where, they're just not in the plans, and then so those don't come out. Right. So I can say you never say never, but I can also say there's no plans for it right now to come out at all.
Gotcha. What was the main reason why Namco Cross Capcom never made it outside Japan? Because it seems like Capcom's very easy to retain license. They just basically hand everything but the kitchen sink. What was the main reason behind that?
Well, so I wasn't at the company back then, right. But some of the things that might have happened in the past, where there's a lot of extra kind of licensing that needed to be happen, or if there are the way that the deal was structured for that particular game at that time could have prevented it from being brought over. So sometimes that's kind of an issue of how the contract was done, how the agreement was made, and it just doesn't allow for it. And then there's sometimes where it's thought of in advance where, hey, we want to bring this out globally, so then we make that deal in advance. Or sometimes we will try and go back to kind of renegotiate and kind of add something to where we can release something overseas. But each game has kind of their own factors, and so it's hard to tell. I would guess that at the time the game was planned for a Japanese-only release, and so the deal that was made was only for a Japanese release at that time. And so, whether it can be revisited or not, I can't say. Right. But my best bet would be that would probably be the main reason why it wasn't brought out back then.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to interview. Any message you want to tell to the Project Crosszone fans and the localization Facebook page?
I'd just like to say, Project Crosszone 2, this is a game that essentially is coming out because you guys, the fans, basically, played the first game, loved the first game, talked about it, and the first game did well enough to where, the development team, they had more stuff they wanted to do, and they were able to make that happen because of you guys, the fans. So definitely check out Project Crosszone 2 when it comes out in February. And I know if you love the first game, you're going to love this one even better.
Thank you. Well, thank you guys so much. When can we expect to see Project Crosszone 2 come out in the U.S.?
So Project Crosszone 2 comes out February 16th.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time out to interview us.
Great, thanks.